talk less, feel more, become more. Most people today are drowning in noise, endless talking, endless opinions, endless distractions. We talk so much that we've forgotten how to feel, how to listen, and how to understand what's really happening inside us. You don't grow by saying more, you grow by feeling more. Because every word you speak without awareness is just noise, but every silence filled with understanding is transformation. Silence is not the absence of words, it's the presence of awareness. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, silence feels like being invisible. But what most people don't understand is that silence is not a sign of weakness. It's the language of strength. It's the space where truth begins to whisper. When you stop trying to prove, explain, and defend, you give yourself permission to feel what's real. Silence has a rhythm, a heartbeat of its own. It teaches you to listen, not just to the noise around you, but to the quiet voice inside you that's been waiting for attention. Most people use words to fill the empty spaces inside them. They talk to avoid feeling lonely. They talk to hide their pain. And they talk because silence makes them uncomfortable. But growth doesn't happen in noise. It happens in stillness. The most powerful decisions, the most meaningful realizations come from moments when you step back and listen. You start noticing patterns in your thoughts, the triggers in your emotions, and the truth behind your reactions. You begin to understand that not everything requires a response. Some things simply need to be observed. Silence gives you that power. It slows down the chaos and helps you see what truly matters. In silence, your inner voice grows louder. You begin to connect the dots between what you think, what you feel, and who you really are. You stop reacting and start reflecting. You stop speaking to be seen and start listening to understand. The energy you once spent trying to convince others begins to flow inward. And that's where transformation begins. When you learn to sit quietly with yourself, without judgment or distraction, you discover that the answers you've been searching for were never out there. They were always within. People often confuse silence with emptiness, but it's the opposite. Silence is fullness. It's where the heart gathers strength, where the mind resets, and where the soul heals. It's where you face yourself, your fears, your regrets, your hopes, without the mask of words. In those quiet moments, you start recognizing what's real and what's just noise. The more you embrace silence, the more grounded you become. It's like standing still in the middle of a storm. Everything around you is moving, but you remain centered. That's not weakness, that's mastery. So when the world tells you to speak louder, speak faster, speak more, remember that silence speaks in a language no one else can hear but you. And in that sacred space of stillness, you will find not emptiness but truth, the kind of truth that doesn't need to be spoken to be understood. We live in a world where feeling deeply has become rare. Everyone wants to appear strong, busy, and unbothered, but in that performance, we lose touch with the very thing that makes us human: emotion. We hide our pain behind smiles, distract ourselves with screens, and pretend that everything is fine. But pretending doesn't heal. Avoiding doesn't fix. What you refuse to feel today becomes the weight you carry tomorrow. The truth is, you cannot grow past what you won't face. Every emotion you bury alive will find a way to surface later, through anger, anxiety, or emptiness. Real strength begins the moment you stop running from yourself. Feeling what you avoid takes courage. It means sitting with your pain instead of numbing it. It means allowing yourself to cry when you need to admit that you're lost when you don't have the answers, and to be honest about what's breaking inside you. This isn't weakness, it's honesty. And honesty is the foundation of healing. You don't have to fight your feelings, you have to listen to them. Your emotions are not your enemies, they are your messengers. Sadness shows you where you've loved deeply. Anger reveals where your boundaries have been crossed. Fear exposes what still controls you. Every feeling has something to teach you if you're willing to learn. But we've been taught to shut down instead of open up. Stay strong, they say, don't be too emotional. And so, we armor ourselves with indifference, thinking that feeling less will protect us. But numbness doesn't protect, it disconnects. It cuts you off from the richness of life. You cannot experience joy without risking pain. You cannot experience love without facing loss. You cannot truly live if you refuse to feel. The depth of your emotions defines the depth of your humanity. To feel is to be alive. When you start facing what you feel, something powerful happens. You begin to heal. The emotions that once controlled you start to lose their grip. You no longer fear sadness because you understand its message. You no longer avoid pain because you've learned to grow through it. You realize that the purpose of feeling isn't to suffer, but to understand. Every tear you've cried, every moment of heartbreak, every fear that's shaken you, all of it was preparing you to become stronger, softer, and more self-aware. Feeling deeply doesn't make you fragile, it makes you free. It connects you to your truth, your empathy, and your strength. So instead of running from your emotions, sit with them. Let them speak. Let them guide you. Because when you allow yourself to truly feel, you don't just survive, you evolve. You become someone who no longer fears the storm within because you've learned to dance in its rain. We live in a time where everyone wants to be heard, but very few want to listen. The world has become a constant echo of opinions, arguments, and noise. We speak quickly, react instantly, and share endlessly, yet so little of what we say carries meaning. The truth is, not every thought deserves a voice, and not every silence needs to be filled. Speaking less isn't about being quiet, it's about being intentional. It's about giving your words weight, depth, and honesty. Because when you learn to speak with purpose, your voice starts to matter. There's a simple truth. People remember how your words make them feel, not how much you talk. Empty words create distance. Meaningful words build connection. When you talk just to talk, you drain your energy. But when you speak with clarity and awareness, your words gain power. The most impactful voices aren't the loudest. They are the most thoughtful. They pause before they speak. They listen before they respond. And they only say what truly needs to be said. That kind of communication doesn't just touch the ears, it reaches the heart. Speaking only when it adds value requires discipline. It means letting go of the need to prove, to defend, or to impress. It means understanding that silence is not a void, it's a filter that separates truth from noise. When you stop rushing to respond, you give yourself time to reflect. You understand the situation, the person, and the emotion behind the words. And when you finally speak, your message carries calm, clarity, and strength. It's not about winning a conversation, it's about creating understanding. Every word you speak carries energy. It can heal or it can harm. It can build or it can break. That's why awareness is everything. Before you speak, ask yourself, will this word create peace or conflict? Will it inspire or discourage? Will it bring light or shadow? Once you start thinking like that, you realize that your voice is not a tool for attention. It's a gift for connection. Real communication isn't about volume. It's about value. The greatest leaders, thinkers, and healers all share one trait. They speak less but say more. Their silence has meaning, and their words have soul. You can feel their sincerity in every sentence because they don't talk to impress, they talk to impact. That's the power of speaking with intention. When your words come from reflection instead of reaction, they don't just pass through ears, they stay in hearts. So talk less, but when you do speak, let your words carry truth, empathy, and light. Because one word spoken with awareness can do what 1,000 careless ones never will. It can change someone's life. Becoming more doesn't come from doing more or saying more. It begins when you start feeling more. Growth isn't an achievement, it's an awakening. It's the moment you begin to live with awareness instead of autopilot. So many people spend their lives chasing goals, titles, and validation, but deep down they still feel empty. Why? Because they've forgotten how to feel. They've disconnected from their emotions, their purpose, and their heart. You cannot become more if you are numb inside. Feeling is the doorway to becoming. It's where transformation begins. When you allow yourself to feel, you connect with the truth of who you are. You start recognizing what gives you peace and what drains your soul. You stop following the crowd and start following your clarity. Feeling more means paying attention to your emotions, your energy, and your experiences. It's learning to listen when your heart says something isn't right and having the courage to act on it. That awareness is what makes you grow. Because real transformation doesn't happen in a single moment of motivation. It happens through consistent self-awareness, through the small, quiet choices you make every day. Most people think strength means suppressing emotions, but real strength is understanding them. You can't heal what you don't feel, and you can't grow from what you refuse to face. When you start embracing your emotions, joy, fear, pain, gratitude, you begin to see how every feeling has a lesson. Pain teaches you empathy. Fear teaches you courage. Love teaches you connection. Gratitude teaches you perspective. Every emotion you truly feel becomes a step toward becoming a wiser, softer, and more authentic version of yourself. Becoming more isn't about adding things to your life. It's about removing what blocks your growth. The masks, the expectations, the fear of judgment, all the things that stop you from being real. Feeling deeply helps you peel away those layers. It makes you humble. It brings you closer to truth. You stop needing to appear perfect and start wanting to be genuine. That's where peace lives, in honesty, not performance. When you live from that space, you don't chase success, you attract meaning. So yes, talk less, give your silence a purpose. Feel more, give your heart a voice, because when you truly feel, you begin to see. And when you begin to see, you begin to grow. That's when life changes. Not because you've become someone else, but because you finally become yourself. Life is a quiet teacher. It doesn't always speak through words. Sometimes it whispers through emotions, mistakes, and moments that force you to pause. Talk less, feel more, become more isn't just a quote. It's a way of living. It's about slowing down in a world that never stops. It's about choosing awareness over distraction, depth over noise, and truth over performance. When you start to live like that, everything changes. Your relationships deepen, your mind quiets, and your purpose becomes clearer. You begin to realize that becoming more has nothing to do with how much you achieve and everything to do with how deeply you experience life. When you stop talking just to fill silence, your inner world starts to speak. You begin to notice how much wisdom hides behind your emotions. The silence you once avoided becomes your teacher. You start to feel the weight of your words, the purpose behind your actions, and the emotions beneath your reactions. You learn that silence isn't empty. It's sacred. It's where your most powerful transformation begins. Because it's in silence that your thoughts align, your feelings rise, and your truth unfolds. That's when you start to see life not as a race to be won, but as a journey to be understood. Feeling more doesn't make life easier, but it makes it real. You'll feel the highs more deeply and the lows more honestly, but that's how growth happens. You begin to value peace over approval, connection over attention, and authenticity over perfection. You start living with heart. The more you feel, the more human you become, and the more human you become, the more meaningful everything feels, even the pain, because you finally understand that every emotion, every silence, and every struggle was shaping you into someone stronger and softer at the same time. Becoming more is not about chasing a better version of yourself. It's about remembering who you were before the noise, before the fear, before the world told you who to be. It's about coming home to yourself. When you talk less and feel more, you stop living on the surface and start living with depth. You start making choices that come from awareness, not impulse. You begin to find peace in simplicity, strength in stillness, and joy in authenticity. So if you truly want to evolve, stop trying to sound wise. Start trying to be real. Speak when it adds meaning. Feel when it hurts. Reflect when it's silent. That's how transformation happens, quietly, naturally, deeply. Because in the end, the goal is not to be louder or faster, it's to be truer. Talk less, feel more, become more. That's not just advice, that's a way of living with purpose. Becoming more is not a destination, it's a daily decision. It's not about being perfect, successful, or admired. It's about being aware, connected, and alive. Every day, life invites you to grow, to listen, to feel, and to rise above the noise that surrounds you. But most people ignore that invitation because they're too busy talking, too distracted to notice. They forget that every answer they seek is already waiting in their stillness. The truth is, you don't need more words to find clarity. You need more presence. The more you start feeling instead of reacting, the more you begin to see who you truly are beneath all the noise. The journey of becoming more starts the moment you stop seeking validation from others and start seeking understanding within yourself. You realize that no one can define you but you. You start to recognize your patterns, your fears, your wounds, not to judge them, but to heal them. Feeling deeply helps you uncover the truth behind your actions. Why do you speak when you should listen? Why do you chase what doesn't fulfill you? Why do you fear silence? When you begin asking these questions, you shift from existing unconsciously to living with purpose. That's where real transformation begins, in awareness. Talking less teaches you patience. It teaches you the art of listening to others, to your intuition, and to life itself. Feeling more teaches you empathy. It helps you connect with people not through words, but through understanding. And when you combine both, silence and sensitivity, you begin to become more. You grow not in size or status, but in depth. You start walking through life with calm confidence, grounded, centered, and unshakable. You no longer react to everything, you respond with intention. That's what emotional maturity looks like. Stillness that carries strength. Every great transformation happens quietly. You don't need to announce your growth. People will feel it in your energy. They'll see it in your calm, your choices, your silence. You'll no longer crave to prove yourself because you'll finally be enough for yourself. You'll start to live from a place of honesty, saying less, meaning more, feeling deeply, and becoming fully human. That's the essence of real growth, becoming someone who lives with heart, awareness, and peace. So when life feels loud, step back, breathe, listen. Let the silence guide you. Let the emotions teach you. Let the lessons shape you. Because the goal isn't to speak more, it's to be more, talk less, feel more, become more. That's how you evolve, not through noise, but through depth, not through words, but through truth. In the end, talk less, feel more, become more is more than just a phrase. It's a quiet revolution against the noise that fills our lives. We live in an age where people mistake volume for value and words for wisdom. But the truth is, the loudest voices are not always the wisest ones. Real strength doesn't come from how much you speak, but from how deeply you understand. The more you embrace silence, the more you'll begin to see the layers of truth hidden beneath distraction. It's in that silence where clarity is born, the kind that helps you know who you are and what truly matters. Feeling more allows you to experience life in its purest form. It teaches you to stop running from your emotions and instead listen to what they're trying to tell you. Every feeling carries a lesson. Sadness reveals depth, love reveals connection, and pain reveals growth. When you stop numbing your emotions, you start understanding them, and through that understanding, you start healing. Feeling deeply reconnects you to your humanity, and that connection is the foundation of transformation. You don't grow by ignoring your emotions, you grow by embracing them fully. Speaking less doesn't mean you silence your truth, it means you choose your truth carefully. It's learning when to speak and when to listen, when to act and when to wait. When your words come from awareness, they carry power. When your silence is grounded in peace, it carries presence. Both are equally strong. The world doesn't need more noise, it needs more meaning. Your voice becomes truly powerful when it comes from reflection, not reaction. Speak less, but make every word count. And finally, becoming more is not about being better than others. It's about becoming a truer version of yourself. When you talk less, you listen more. When you feel more, you understand more. And when you understand more, you evolve into someone wiser, calmer, and more authentic. That's what growth really means. Not changing into someone new, but remembering who you've always been beneath the noise. So let the world chase attention. You just chase awareness. Because the quieter you become, the louder your soul speaks. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you for watching this episode of HeartTalk Studio. I hope these words reminded you that real growth doesn't happen in noise, it happens in stillness. If this message touched something inside you, take a moment of silence after this video. Reflect on your emotions and listen to what your heart has been trying to say all along. Remember, life doesn't ask you to speak more. It asks you to feel more, to live more, and to become more. If you found value in this talk, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to HeartTalk Studio for more deep, soulful content that speaks to your heart. Until next time, stay grounded, stay aware, and keep growing. Thank you for listening. And as always, stay true to your heart. Goodbye.